Hey, good morning. I wanted to take a few minutes about a new idea that I had run across recently. It was called the threshold model. It was developed by Mark Granovetter, who's a sociologist, and others to describe the tipping point where our behavior changes. And threshold model specifically looks at how the interactions between people work as a group to make decisions as a group. And Granovetter's research was specifically around modeling rioting, and we've seen some of that recently in our own upheaval of this current time. And it really made sense to me in terms of thinking about how to describe behavior that doesn't fit our individual beliefs and values. And the threshold model is specific in that, in talking about our beliefs and values sometimes don't always match our behavior, and there are external forces that are pushing on that. Our common language of that is peer pressure that reaches a point where we're willing to change our behavior in order to fit in with the crowd. We have seen lots of examples of that recently. Thinking of someone who might have a high threshold or low threshold tolerance for specific topics. There's another point. The threshold model is specific to individual situations, talking about individuals inside of a group and predicting how their behavior might change. Take toilet paper, for instance. We found out the hard way back in March that most of us have a relatively low threshold of tolerance for worrying about whether or not toilet paper was going to hold out. A different example where we have found out that some of us have a much higher threshold for conforming and wearing a mask in public in order to help protect each other. It's possible for one individual to have a low threshold of tolerance for the need to try and find toilet paper, and also a high threshold of tolerance for wanting to wear a mask inside the same social situation. Understanding that then helps to look at where some of us might have a low threshold or a high threshold of tolerance around any number of social topics, including protesting and rioting. Not that they are behaviors that we want to condone, but they start to make sense once you start looking at how an individual switches from not wanting something to wanting something, given the pressures that are being exerted on them from the outside people around them. As always in coaching questions, where does this apply to you? What are your individual thresholds? What are the topics that you find yourself being influenced by pressure from the outside? And do you have a high threshold or low threshold on specific scenarios? And paying attention to where that behavior might change for you, and your behavior, and that behavior might change for others, and seeing where people might flip on a topic based on the influence of who around them and how many around them are doing something similar or something different. My request is to start paying attention to that for yourself, starting to notice where you have a boundary where the scale tips and that threshold changes your behavior based on a certain topic and certain influence from the community around you. That could be friends, it could be family, it could be groups that you're associated with, but then the community at large, whether your threshold is high or low for a specific topic. It matters because it allows us to see how we're changing our behavior and being able to choose in a more purposeful way instead of just being automatically influenced by those thresholds. I'd be happy to continue this conversation. I'm curious as to what questions you might have or what scenarios that applies for you. But this is a valuable tool in understanding what's going on around, not only going on around us, but also inside as well. I'm John Rhoads. This is Rhoads Life Coaching. I hope you're able to find purpose and meaning in daily life.